I'm taking a deep breath in. I'm letting out any anything that's mm, not not bullshit. Does this make sense, Heather? In
Gemini.
and with the authenticity, with the bullshit.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
we're at.
That's
I think
where we're
that's where
at.
we're at.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this, Heather. That Gemini season we were feeling a little, dare I say, cunty. And again, to be clear, not like mean girl cunty, like
No,
none
like
more of the
tongue in
bullshit cunty.
cheek, like
Yes.
I'm my own hot bitch.
Because we are. And that is just what everyone should be carrying this lovely Gemini season. Folks, welcome back. It's me, Miranda Lenski. I'm on one, so y'all just brace yourselves, all right? And we've got the gorgeous, the beautiful, the one and only, the Aquarius angel, authentic. What am I trying to say? Why can't I do this word? Authentic angel bitch, Heather Cunningham. And we've got a Charlie XCX album on the drop.
Literally, I think it's available
Like right
like
now?
a minute ago.
Like
Should we
a
stop
officially minute.
recording?
I'm like,
Sorry, guys.
I mean, it's just again, season of the cunt, please.
I
Everyone.
can't wait to listen.
We haven't listened to it yet, but we can go ahead and tell you that you should. Can't we?
Yeah,
Heather?
you should. You should.
Yeah. Everyone
The
should
singles
listen.
are so good. Even Alex Nightingale shouts out, texts me. She was like
Wow.
Heather, gotta say, the Charlie singles. I was like,
Okay.
damn,
I didn't realize Alex was never into Charlie.
she is. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. She supports.
Well, as someone with impeccable taste, such as her, and I don't
Yes.
I feel like that now sounds like I'm kidding, but I am not. Alex has shown me some of my favorite artists ever. It's just at this point, girls and boys, to not listen to Charlie X is just a disservice to your ears and to you. And
It
I get it
is.
though. I do think I understand that she's maybe a more of an acquired taste in terms of like the style, but I've she's the only. It's so funny because I don't even want to call Charlie XCX a celebrity, but like we have to be honest, like she is famous, but like she's when I tell you she's the only celebrity I follow on socials, it's literally her. I
She's
just
so
love her.
refreshing because she is so authentic. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
she like is just not a corporate machine. Like
Right.
absolutely not. Like she is
But
going
she
to do
could be
she could
is the
be.
power.
And she was for a second. I think that's why she's like, yeah, no, that won't
But
be
that's
me.
just it too. I think you find out that a lot of her like mainstream features or like a lot of those mainstream songs, like that's just it. That's only the tip of the iceberg. It's none
Mm-hmm.
of her mainstreams that like I think that's what it is too. I think a lot of people who haven't um fully given her the chance and the depth, right? You only hear the mainstream. I'm gonna connect this back to astrology, just bear with me. But
Yeah.
like there's not a world in which I feel like she didn't drop this hyper pop brat album during Gemini season on purpose. Like,
There's got to be an astrologer on the team. I mean,
oh
come
yeah.
on. Also,
On all the teams, really, there should be, but we digress.
it's so funny because I was listening to the astrology podcast recently. And God, I wish I could remember precisely what they were talking about, but they were like saying, like, oh, this thing dropped on this day. And then the co-host of the podcast was like, oh, they must not have an astrologer on their team because like if they had just waited a day, that's way better astrology for like the release or like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And that got me thinking, like, is there an astrologer like on, and if so, there should be an astrologer for reality TV. Bravo, hire me to do casting because the way that I could come in and be like, don't fire this housewife yet. She's about to go through a Pluto transit. Her life is going to get crazy. Or like, yes, hire this person over this person
Right.
because transits. Like, that is just, I mean, come on. There should be astrologers on the reality TV teams.
Well, what's so funny too, right? The Farmer's Almanac, for example, been around forever. It's not just for the farmers, it's for all of us. It is, I was gifted one for 2024. The
I've always wanted one.
farmers, I'm writing that down. But write that down, listeners, write that down. But the Farmer's Almanac, the literal Farmer's Almanac, talks about astrology. Like,
Yeah,
it
planting
is,
seeds at this time to reap
they have
rewards at
symbols on
this
certain days.
time.
Yep. It's like really fascinating.
Mhm.
Um, it just, yeah, again, we're learning this slowly but surely. Our Western culture is finally catching up a little bit to the times, but it's just this, yeah, I think it's just so much more engraved and embedded than we realize. And I think now it all seems like more and more things are maybe revolving around it. Yes, it's getting more popular, but I think what's really fun is to look back when astrology wasn't like quote unquote trending like it is here now, and seeing how much it's been engraved and like embedded in things. And like once you start paying more attention to it, you now can reflect and look at that. I just thought that was really interesting, obviously, that the Farmer's Almanac gives. I mean, listen, they have ads in there too, don't get me wrong, but this is like a trusted, like people look at that. Our farm, like people use a Farmer's Almanac. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
tool. It's like, it's just really interesting. Um,
Don't you
all this
also
to
just
say.
feel on an intuitive level in life that there is a timing to things? I fucking love the Casey Musgraves lyric on Star-Crossed, that
Mm,
album, where I think it's Cherry Blossom, where
mm.
she's like, even in nature, timing is everything. And like
Yeah,
I that lyric goes through my mind all the time. 'Cause I've just like one astrology and nature, but also just like God, I feel that
right.
on like a level of like I think back on things in my life and yeah, no, that the time I wanted it, that wasn't the right time, or like
Mm-hmm. Right. Like just well, and again, it's kind of funny how it just also takes time, right, to show perspective better. But also, speaking of that real quick, like for example, this Gemini new moon, right? We're coming up on some Gemini, or it's today, right? The new moon?
yeah,
Yes. Um, like this sort of refresh, this restart, a lot of the astrologers online, the girlies were saying, the queens were saying, really reflect on this is what's so fucking cool about the cycles and the patterns, and why you even the deeper you dive into astrology, the more the past becomes relevant, because again, we know where planets and movements and like we know where all that was. We can look exactly where the sky was thousands of years ago. We could technically kind of look ahead, right? Like that is
right.
just how it goes.
As people do with fucking history.
Mm-hmm.
Astrology's the same thing. Anyway, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And spirit, well, yeah, let's, I'm like, we could make this a whole different kind of show. Just kidding. But I just, correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, but a lot of the astrology girls specifically talking about like this Gemini time, this new moon, this that's happening in Gemini. We're saying to really like look back to where you were around this time, like Gemini season in 2020, which I found really interesting. And like they even brought up like, 2020, a lot of people I think count that year out, but whoa, what a time. Like if any of us are looking back at 2020 at any point, right? There's tons of just chaos and movement and a lot there. There's just a lot there. And like that's crazy to think that like, 4 years from then now, like it was just really interesting to me how like this current new moon is still somehow connected, or there's a wrapping up, or there's maybe an understanding or a perspective from 4 years ago that you didn't have. And the transitioning of things, like it's just really blows my mind how much I am paying attention more to transitions, where things are in the signs, and how that, what that feels like, what that means. You got to get on
Yeah.
it, is all. Like, I know there's so many layers, and I know that astrology can seem so overwhelming, of course, but it's changed my life for the better.
No, for real, for
Like,
real. And like even just dipping your toes in. Also, I think the 4-year thing pertains to a Saturn Jupiter I
maybe
know
I
Saturn and Jupiter were
misunderstood.
squaring. No, no, no. I you're right. But like I think I'm trying to think about what, because I heard the same thing from astrologers I follow,
Yeah.
and I think it was the Saturn Jupiter square, like that was a COVID thing. Anyway, but yes, even to dip your toes in and like start to sort of, and I don't recommend every horoscope, but like even just dipping your toes in and thinking in that lens, I don't
Mhm.
know, just have an open mind, think about it. Just it like does, I think, add a whole other layer to
Yeah.
life. I already talk to you about this. I don't know if it was you or my therapist. I was talking, well, I definitely talked to my therapist about it, but I listened to this interview with this guy who wrote a book on awe, the experience of awe, and how he's like a happiness expert, and how if you have an awe experience every other day, it'll completely transform your serotonin, dopamine levels, all that shit.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and
I believe it.
and he said that the things that produce that, and I was like, it's so fucked that our society isn't like motivated by
Right.
creating that. But anyway, but things that I just naturally am looking for all the time, like good in music that gives you that feeling of like, wow, this is beautiful, or this is like
Mhm.
different, or yeah,
Or
like
I'm alive. Like
I'm
literally that
alive from
like
hearing these
mhm.
sounds and really being present with it and tapping into a song. Music, nature, just a beautiful scenery. And but then the other thing he was saying is like meaning, having like a sense of meaning in your life, and even like broader scope, like a conversation with a friend, like third eye shit, he was basically saying, is the other way to have awe experiences of like really just taking a moment to think about how we are twirling on a rock, like we are part of a grand thing. And
Mhm.
uh yeah, it gave me so much validation, and that like, even if, think what you want about astrology, like I'm sure the people who are listening are not the people I have to be
Yeah, if
like.
you're tuning into this, there's probably a good chance you're on our side. Not that there are sides,
Not that there's
but
sides. I'm
you're
not trying to
awake.
push an agenda,
You're
but
awake.
like I just genuinely think like it does, for me at least, add meaning, which adds awe, which adds happiness. I don't know. Like
Right. No, I 100%. I feel like
it
I
could
I'm
all be
I
fake, but like it's, who cares?
so oh I'm so gonna I feel like I'm like totally telling on myself because it is embarrassing how much spiritual content, astrology content, and science content I get on TikTok, for example. It's not where I only get my research, but it's usually those moments that I really love, like going into the comments and seeing what other people are saying. And it's so fun that I feel like more people than not are um like want good things than don't. I just do believe that. Again, it's the whole light compared to the darkness. Like no matter what, if you're in the pitch black dark, one little speck of light is still going to show up in a that whole I'm butchering that fucking quote, but like that whole idea, right? That like light, even in the smallest light,
You
right? In
can't
a
have
room
one
full of
without
dark,
the
you're gonna
other, right?
see.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And like, but I think that all I'm going to say is, for example, like, oh, I'm totally going to butcher this, but like when we took like a molecule or like when you put a, like the only reason scientists knew that there was like energy in molecules or whatever the fuck is because, oh my God, maybe it was like a neuron, whatever. They put it under the microscope, but it was one of those things. This blew my mind. The moment the scientists walked away from the microscope, like the molecule or whatever. I don't even. I'm like, should I stop?
No,
Stay
keep
with
going.
me. Stay with me.
Yeah,
The
I'm
molecule or whatever. Alex is going to be in our text in like a second. Like, girl sends me the link to this is what you meant, you dumbass. It was all just about how this girl was giving this TikTok because it was this like that molecule or whatever was only present when there were eyes on it to watch it. And then the moment the scientists literally walked away, it disappeared from the microscope. And it was just a really like, that's fucking crazy. I'm trying to say the F word less so that it's more um
Oh shit,
potent when
I'm
I
not
do
good at.
see it.
Oh
No,
yeah.
but like the other day I was editing the podcast and I was like, maybe I should pick and choose when I use that word a little more.
Oh god.
Anyways, But like that to me is the whole reason this girl is bringing this up on TikTok is because that represents energy as a whole. Like, and just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Also, the whole art of like getting what we want, for example, and manifestation, right? Yada yada. When you can, I think she gives this example. We didn't know people could run a 4 minute mile until someone did. And
Right.
then everyone started running 4 minute miles.
Right,
But up
right.
until
It's
that point, it
like,
was like it can't happen. And then people saw it. You could physically see it. And her whole point to that video was like harnessing energy you can't always see because it doesn't mean it's not there. And I
yeah.
think we as humans, right, we're having a human experience. We can get very, very locked in on the things that we can prove. Sometimes intuition isn't something you can prove, but it is something you've never been more sure of, right? Like
Yeah. And I think
everything has an
it's
energy.
honestly, and it's I think it's easier. I talk about this shit with you and my sister endlessly, and like
Right.
people who have a lot of water in their charts, or like I don't know. Sometimes I'm just like, God, like I don't know. I can't like help but like feel things, but not everyone is like built that way, maybe. But
Right.
regardless, we do all have intuitions, and I agree. And also it's like we didn't have AI and now we do. Or like we thought, one thing worked like that happens throughout history all the fucking time. So like
Right.
who are we to think we know it all?
To think that yeah, that's always
Or who are we to think that like humans are the end all be all of like intelligence, and like who the fuck do we think we are, honestly? I was
yeah.
listening to this whole thing about like how we're discovering that certain species of animals have like consciousness and intelligence like far beyond and can maybe even like understand the language we speak, and like what fucking elitist cunts are we that we're like, "Oh, we're the best." Like
Yeah.
no,
Is
I
if
think
life has taught us anything, it's that there's a lot we do not know. We know
yeah.
a lot of
So be
things in our
open-minded, be
realm.
humble,
Yeah.
in the words of
A beautiful segue. A beautiful segue.
honestly though, Pisces moon.
And shall we get into that,
Yeah.
Heather? All we're trying to say is it's very important to maybe humble ourselves, especially during this Gemini season. We need to all be a little more humble. Sorry, Heather.
Yeah, no.
I'm just excited. I love this.
Yeah. Me
Uh,
too.
shall we just jump right in? We've got a lot to, I know we have a lot to dig through
We
with this
do.
step.
We
The
do.
one, the only, the K. Dot King Kendrick Lamar. I'm like, what are his other? I know. I'm like, it's K. Dot. I can't think of his other names. King Kunta himself, Kendrick
Mm-hmm.
Lamar. A Gemini sun, Heather. You already said it. Pisces moon. Should have guessed. Really should
Also,
have guessed that
of
years
course,
ago.
Libra rising. Of course, rappers with their Gemini and Libra, it's like the two most common.
Really? The Libra as well.
Yeah. Well, because there's also so many, I would say, like Libran music producers or air signs. To me, rap is such an air sign
Mm,
thing.
I see.
Because it's about speaking and it's about using your words, and it's different from like other forms of music. It's so much about
Mhm.
like the words and the way you put them together and gesticulate and the things you're expressing. And Libra being like the Venusian beauty, bringing that
Mm.
into the words and expressing a message. And I also think it's such a Libras are so about justice. And I think that rappers tend to be motivated by expressing
Oh yeah. And loyalty.
ideas about that. Yeah, yeah.
Libra loyalty too. I didn't think about it that way.
Hmm.
But like, yeah. No, obviously like
But
Kendrick
Gemini,
Lam-
of course,
oh
like the
please.
wit
A
too,
given.
and the
Oh
like
yeah. The quickness, the
quickness.
witness,
Yeah,
the it is so funny how many rappers we see who are Geminis. It really
insane.
is.
But it
It's
makes so
really
much sense.
funny.
If
Of
anything
course.
validates astrology, it's that
It's that
like
rap a bunch of
every
rappers are
rapper is
yeah,
a
is a
Gemini.
Gemini. No, it's really it is just really fascinating. But also Kendrick Lamar as a rapper, he's just inherently fascinating, right? He was, I will not say the first of his kind. I actually don't know this. Is he might be the only rapper with, no, he can't be the only rapper with a Grammy. Not that the Grammys matter in that way. Don't get me started. But like
The
he's
only
Grammy
rapper with a
nominated. He's
Pulitzer
a
Prize.
Pulitzer. Yeah, which
Lin-Manuel
I'm not
Miranda, I guess, has it, but very, very different.
oh, yeah, very different. And I'm not saying that like again, up the Pulitzer Prize, the Grammys, this is like I'm not trying to say like society stamp of approval because I don't think that's why rappers rap. Obviously, that's not the end goal, but um right, like if you're familiar with Kendrick Lamar at all, there's always this sort of asterisk with him because I think especially for our generation, we grew up with a lot of like what hip hop and rap really was, especially at a mainstream level that he's at. Um it's in the nature of a lot of it, but like it could be really degrading towards women, of course. But which is what I love. Now, there's just so many more female rappers in the game than there ever has been, and it is just so fun to sort of watch that be taken back a little bit. Or
Yeah, also
I'm like,
so many air sign female rappers.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Shouts out Megan the Stallion, Aquarius. But yeah, like there's I don't know what I'm trying to say. Kendrick Lamar is a mainstream rapper, but anyone who brings up his music or talks about him, a lot of the reason that he is so beloved, besides just being talented and good at what he does, what sets him apart is like specifically the culture of it all. How Kendrick Lamar is a part of that culture. He brings that culture into his world. He doesn't let the fame and the fortune take him out of that world. He has allowed that world to still breathe, to still give it a voice, to still shine a light on it while, does that make sense? Like without
Yeah.
changing. Obviously, I wasn't following Kendrick before his very successful rap career, but there is something to me, that's why he is so popular with our generation. That's why he himself, he's a very good rapper, don't get me wrong, but like specifically the depth. And I'm not even if his shit didn't have a Pulitzer, even if his shit didn't have a Grammy, I'm not talking about that. Like in general, his depth is there. And not to say that other rappers don't do this too, but I do think, especially we find in mainstream rap or like radio rap, it isn't so much about depth as it is like a quick, like, the banter and the surface levelness of like, and what sounds good, right? What do you want to shake your ass to? Now that you can't
Yeah.
shake your ass to a Kendrick song, don't get me wrong. But it's like, I don't think he was ever really making stuff to be played in the clubs, for example, or like he was never,
Right.
I don't think, not that you can't throw a little ass and it's still not a great beat and like get your blood going and your heart pumping, everything we love about the music, but like, yeah, finding out he's a Pisces moon, immediately I literally felt stupid. I was like, why didn't I know that? Because I really feel like that shows, that absolutely expresses itself in his Gemini talented way. Does that
Not
make sense?
only that, totally, it's a moon in the fifth house, the house of self-expression, Leo's house, Pisces, fifth house moon there. Trine, Mars conjunct Mercury, Mercury being the planet, Gemini's ruling planet of how you communicate and speak and use language. Yeah, in Cancer, next to the midheaven, the career point, and Pluto and Scorpio in the first house, which is such a strong placement too. So he has all three water signs with these strong ass planets at angular points in the chart.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Like
That's going to come
the
up in your
Gemini,
music.
which is not, yeah, which is not what you would typically think of as like the deepest sign. But even his Gemini sun is in the, or no, it's in the ninth, which is very philosophical and about how you perceive God, they say, or like your belief system on life, which is interesting. But then Venus in the eighth house, Scorpio's house. There's like so much
Yeah.
water emphasis in this chart for
Yeah.
being a Gemini.
Yeah. Wow. Like truly born to do exactly what he's
Yeah,
doing.
totally, totally, totally. The Mars, uh, Mercury conjunction in Cancer next to the midheaven trine the moon plus the like, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I almost feel like it's like fated that he is the voice of this without getting too mystical about it. But
No, but well, it's so funny to hear you say that too. I just remembered Kendrick has been gotten a little more in the limelight recently because of the beef with Drake. And as someone who loved Drake, like he was maybe like my most played artist all through college. I was obsessed, very big Drake fan, and someone who was immediately disappointed in Drake and kind of turned off by Drake's behavior when a lot of the Millie Bobby Brown stuff was going on, and who's also a Pisces, shouts out to Millie. But when a lot of the Millie Bobby Brown stuff was going on, for example, and also though when he got outed in the middle of another rap beef he had with Pusha T about having a son that he wasn't trying to claim and pay child support of. I kind of was there was a lot of moments as a Drake fan where as a woman I just felt very like this isn't his music maybe isn't for me. And also I feel like it almost is like, it's so funny because Kendrick said this recently in his beef, but I was like, I literally thought that, where I almost felt like I don't feel like I'm doing anything right also as to myself or to other women by listening to his stuff sometimes, because I was just really disappointed in him as a fan. I was very kind of like, I don't really love this behavior, and without making it all about Drake. But then like Kendrick getting into this sort of rap beef with him, people were so excited about, because there hasn't been a lot of fun rap beef in a while. Honestly, I think the last time there was fun rap beef was Drake too, and it was him and Pusha T, and this was like in 18. And in a diss track, that's when Pusha T was like, "You are hiding a child, you deadbeat motherfucker," and it was like, it was shocking. And then Kendrick was like, "And you got another one." It's someone made a joke that every time Drake enters rap beef, he comes out with a new kid. And I'm like, you'd think he'd maybe just shut the fuck up, but we digress. Anyways, and Kendrick just said, he says something like that in his line too, like any woman who's listening to him, like you're doing a disservice to your fellow woman. And also don't let your kids near him. Like just really like shit that I feel like Kendrick would not say if it wasn't truthful. And also because he hasn't made people, my whole point, to just backtrack a little bit, is that people were getting really annoyed that Kendrick hasn't put anything out in a while. Which he did put something out not too long ago, but people just like always
also,
want more,
whatever.
more.
Well, yeah, I
yes. And what's so funny is that Grimes, another favorite artist of ours, also a Pisces, is constantly under scrutiny from the fans because it's from a place of respect.
Pisces. No, I know.
Right.
It's
and
like
I know that it's just like we just want it. We love you.
Yeah.
But there's quality to that shit. And also Grimes produces her own stuff. She's busy. But like,
oh my
same
God,
with Kendrick, I feel like he is someone who, like, if he's going to get on a track and put that out there, he better know what he wants to know what he's saying. Like he has, well, excuse me. He has something to say, so to speak. And I don't think anyone is ever like, Kendrick Lamar is putting out a single and he's beefing with Drake so he can make a little more money. No, like, and even in the middle of the beef, it's so funny. He says something like, "Y'all think I even have time for this? My life isn't rap. I have a son to raise. We go to church. We pray. I'm literally teaching him how to be a man. I'm being a father, unlike you, Drake," which was very like, oh. And so he doesn't turn into someone like you, Drake. It was just very like,
shit.
Kendrick popped off. It was very, we needed that. The rap beef hasn't been around in a long time. So that was just very fun for the music. But also, yeah, I don't know. Kendrick's a father. And
also interesting.
He's a father on those raps. Go on.
Also interesting with the Cancer themes being his midheaven being in Cancer and Cancer being the mother archetype, but also ruling the home. And I was listening to the astrology podcast. They talked about this in their like astrological events recap about the whole Kendrick Drake.
Alrighty. Little break, just a tiny little pause. Had ourselves some Gemini difficulties, if you will. Communication errors. Also not our fault though. The AI is upset that we're seeing through its bullshit. So try to sabotage them. I'm just kidding. There's no AI here. Anyways, Heather, diving back in. Being humble, staying loyal, Pisces
Yeah.
moons, the Kendrick Lamar. You were in the middle of his literal birth chart,
Well, I was,
I believe.
yeah, there was, I don't even know if it's worth saying, but there was this thing that was interesting on the astrology podcast. They were talking about this event and how now I'm thinking maybe it was Drake's Cancer moon that was activated. Regardless, the
Ah,
fact that because Cancer represents the home and the
right.
fact that like something about the home, I don't know. I guess the artwork for the album
Oh, yes.
is
I'm sorry. So this is literally what we were talking about. Yes, the diss track that Kendrick made, there were multiple. He put out like 3 or 4. And one of them, yes, was like an aerial, like a Google Maps, like digital, like a Google Earth image of Drake's home. And it had a bunch of like pinpoints, as in like pedophiles live here. Like the same way that you can like look on a website where it's like to see registered pedophiles in your
yeah,
neighborhood.
sex offender. Yeah.
Yes, registered pedophiles, registered sex offenders. I'm like, I don't think that's the proper term, and even when I said it, regardless, yes, he did that with Drake. Yeah, and then Drake. They're not saying that Kendrick promoted this or that's what happened, but then there was a shooting outside of Drake's home, and one of his like security guards got shot, but I believe is okay. And then there was like all
Shit.
this caution tape, and before I understood it was a shooting, I was like, oh my god, they're coming for him like they did P Diddy, but there was
The
caution tape
SWAT
because there was a
team. Oh my
drive-by shooting.
God.
Yeah,
Oh shit.
I'm like, we're really opening the can of worms on this episode. But anyways, so yes, it was Drake's house that Kendrick put on there. Why? What were you gonna say though?
Oh,
What?
just that I guess I wish I knew exactly what was happening, but I guess like as this all occurred, at first I thought it was Kendrick Lamar's cancer points that were being triggered, but maybe it was him and they both have cancer and cancer represents the home. So the fact that
Mm,
like the home was a part of all of this.
interesting. Interesting. Well, now
Yeah.
I hope I have it right. The listeners will let us know in the comments. Um,
Regardless. But
yeah. Go on, go on. Sorry.
no, I don't even know what I was gonna say. It's just, yeah, he has a great chart. Um, a lot of water.
Well, and it's one of those things I feel like we see this with maybe like a handful of people. Again, we don't know any of these people. So like it's always a little tricky to say. Again, because we don't know any of these people, that's why their charts are public. We're able to analyze a chart. Again, we're not saying that we obviously know Kendrick and this is just how he is. But it's always really refreshing, like a lot of times it's like, oh, that's very surprising to see, or like that celebrity might not, again, it's very interesting to see what we are granted as consumers of the celebrities, right? But Kendrick is someone to me where I feel like it's almost maybe 50-50 at this point, or pretty split, where I'm like, oh, his chart reads to me what I think I know about that person based on what they have sh- uh the privilege of showing me, right? The very small what they've granted me into. It's always really fun when that person really aligns with their chart.
Yeah.
Not saying that you can't, that everyone else is fake, but like I just do feel like we see his Gemini sun. We absolutely hear that Pisces moon.
Yeah.
And then we feel that Libra rising as well. Like it's just always very refreshing when they're big three. I'm like, damn, I see that.
Yeah.
Like none of these took me for surprise. If anything, I was more like, oh, excited that he was a Pisces. I don't like Pisces moon, but I was not surprised. I was like,
Yeah.
honestly, why didn't I think he would be? Like that checks out. Like water undertones, for example.
Right.
And I think rap is something that is like the design of it, the nature of it is very cheeky. It is very
Right.
like ego driven. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Kendrick does such a good job of being a great rapper while still just kind of bringing not his own shit, like that there's a bigger, deeper layer of feels like of a lot of what he is trying to say and like what he is about.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of rap is we're getting let into someone's mind, and to me he is someone who thinks deeply.
From my understand, like, yeah, I feel like most of his music isn't about, I don't know, his personal relationships or romantic life or shit like
Right.
that. It tends to be a little bit more universal and
Yes.
Piscean.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder he won a Pulitzer Prize. Uh, but it's
Yeah.
like interesting that at the same time, he is able to be such a Gemini, and like this Drake shit especially is like
Mm-hmm.
so Gemini coming out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can still
Well,
diss.
and to be so, if I may as well, not to make it all about the rap disc, but it is just extra fun because all the people want is new music from Kendrick. And that is what he did. He did a single. I forget who the other rapper was. Ah, shit. It's a song called Like That. I know that much. I'll look up who the rapper is. But the whole thing that made Drake get all up in arms. And what's extra funny, as much as it pains me to say, I am someone I really love J. Cole. And I remember, I think I texted you, Heather, like, oh my God, J. Cole's a Pisces like you, Heather. And J. Cole is also someone to me
Or
that I feel
Aquarius,
like, what I say?
Pisces.
I definitely meant Aquarius. I apologize. That was just me being a Pisces. But yeah, J. Cole is also someone who I feel like, yes, he raps about a lot of personal stuff, but then also in his more recent shit, honestly, to me, was taking a more of a like a bigger picture route to things, which like a lot of people like people love calling J. Cole corny, for example. And I see it. I think sometimes he can sound a little finger waggy. But I've been really into a lot of his more recent stuff too, just like his old stuff. And it's been really fun to watch him grow. But in terms of the rap world, right, there are the big three, which is Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar. Everyone beefs and is at war about who the number one is, of course. But regardless of your opinion, those are the current three rappers in the industry. This is why they got the reputation of being the big three. It's not just for nothing. They are the current three rappers. There might be more now, but it's been like this for a while that can drop albums without any marketing and they still go platinum. That's like the respect that they were earned was the way was their album sales and also sort of like that was something like that was really huge for J. Cole. Like he dropped an album without any marketing and it still went platinum. Um
Not
that's
Kanye and Jay-Z and
right. But I don't think a lot of people consider Kanye
yeah.
a rapper, but and Jay-Z hadn't really, I guess, put out anything like I think he's been a little
I'm
out
just
of the
curious. Yeah, yeah.
right. But I guess like in terms of modern currently right now, those are like the big three because of where we're at. And it's been like that for a
Interesting.
while, like kind of for the maybe the past decade, if I may be so bold. And how this all got like started is Kendrick. It's so funny because the line to me is not even like I'm like, Drake, you wanted us to all find out you had another kid off of that line? Okay. Anyway. But like he just said, Kendrick says, fuck the big three. It's just big me. Which, if you know anything about rap, it's a contact sport. Like that's what rap is. A lot of rap is based off of like but also, that just wasn't that big of a deal to me. Or like when I heard that, that was not, I didn't sit there and think like, oh, he's coming
Yeah,
for
that's
J.
just
Cole.
cheeky.
That's
Yeah.
right. To me, I was like, that's just a cheeky little like, that's something an athlete would say.
Yeah.
Like, and athletes talk about this all the time too, where it's like one of my favorite basketball players, Russell Westbrook. I love him. He's such a little spicy pepper out there, but also he's always saying this. He's like, oh, I'm like some of the people like there are other players on other teams that I'm very good friends with. We've been in the league for a long time. Doesn't matter. When we're on the court, they are my enemies. I have to look at them like that. I have to compartmentalize it or I will not beat them. Like I want to win. And I like to me, that's very similar to rap. Like rap it's a contact sport. And rap beef used to be a lot more popular. It used to be way bigger. Jay-Z was in like some of the biggest rap beef of all time, talked about leaving his condom wrapper in a car, like about fucking
Gemini
someone's
shit.
like, yeah,
Oh my
truly fucking someone's
God.
like it just like it used to get a lot nastier. It's been like
Well, and there
not
was
that
that show on MTV that Nick Cannon produced.
oh yeah.
Um, that was
Like
like
a
all
rap
about
battle
this.
esque.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
yeah, yeah,
what's it
yeah.
called?
I can't think of it either.
Fuck.
Wild and Out.
Wild and Out. Yeah.
Wild and Out. Wild and Out. Wild and Out. Yeah. But I feel
Yeah.
like he did another one. Anyways, yes. But
Wild and
like
Out.
exactly like and but that is what like made Drake. Okay, so the whole context of bringing up J. Cole put out a diss track that he then deleted. And I was a little disappointed that J.
Sounds
Cole
very
put
Aquarius.
yes. And he literally talks about it at a concert. He's like, I don't feel good. Like that shit does not feel good in my soul. It doesn't sit right with me. And then he immediately at his own concert is like Dreamville, which is like the name of his whole thing, his label and what he calls his
Mm.
fans. He's like, Dreamville, do we like, how do we feel about Kendrick Lamar? And makes them all like cheer. And he's like, I literally called it. I might delete later. I am gonna delete that shit. Like it doesn't sit right in my soul. Um, and I thought, like, as much as I was like, man, J. Cole, this is why they're calling you corny. I can't defend this shit. Like, as much I also was kind of like, I mean, I also been there. Like, I feel like I've been like, I
Aquarius.
really came out hot and I said some shit. And everyone was kind of joking of like, yeah, J. Cole, you better back the fuck up out of this fight. Like, you just don't want that smoke. But I do think J. Cole genuinely meant that. I don't think he would have said that and done that if it wasn't from a place of like, hey, I've actually been really thinking about this shit at home and it's
Yeah.
not making me feel good. I don't like it. And again, yeah, he's an Aquarius. Like he just needed a minute. But Drake doubled down, put out a diss. But that's just it too, is that I just don't feel like it was all that. Like it almost felt like Drake wanted to say some shit. And a lot of people have their arms up because Drake apparently put Kendrick as his feature on a big tour. And so Drake's sitting there kind of with his ego, like, the only reason you have a career is because of me. And, you know, like it's all just all the context, all the context. I got into such a hyper fixated deep dive about this recently. So, but my whole
It's
point to say
interesting.
this is that Kendrick didn't come for J. Cole yet. J. Cole better be easy now, be easy. But Kendrick never came for J. Cole. He only came at Drake. And he literally, in the beginning of his first diss, is like, do not tell lies about me, and I will not tell truths about you. You're right. I might have to listen to those after this. But
Damn.
yeah, I just think that yeah, and then like I think I've already said this, but there's a moment where he's like, "You think I have time to call people to get beef, to get dirt on you for a beef?" Because I guess he was calling out Drake for like I think people told Kendrick like, you know, Drake's been calling, trying to dig up like dirt on you. And I think like even in a rap song to be like, my life isn't rap while you're demolishing Drake. As like to be like, this is literally a hobby for me. I have a son. I'm gonna like put your career to rest and then go tuck my kid in. It's just he's so good. And I do think there is something so like, yeah, he you want to root for Kendrick. You just do.
Yeah, you do.
He just does that. He does that really well. Anyways, all this to say, yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked about the Gemini. Wasn't shocked to hear about the water undertones, but I'm more just like, I can't believe I didn't put that together. Literally, shall we forget? May we not forget Jesus himself was a Pisces.
Yeah.
So it only makes
Never
sense that
forget.
Kendrick.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I love
other
that.
than that, Heather, though, sorry, didn't mean to tangent us away from Kendrick's chart, but
No.
is there anything else to you about his chart that sticks out? Like, obviously, we know his rap trajectory, but I am kind of fascinated by Kendrick's home life. And like, he really does just like have a son and like a family at home. It's kind of a really funny, like, does this chart, I
Yeah.
guess I'm more just like, does this chart give any intel into that side of him? Is more personal, what maybe the public doesn't always get to see.
It's a very public chart.
It is a public chart.
Um,
Okay, good to know.
he has like a few planets in the second and third house. But they're outside. It's Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And I think it's interesting that Neptune's in the third house. Again, just such an indicator of like you are a voice of the collective in Capricorn, like in the third house of Gemini, so you need to like
Right.
communicate using Neptune, Pisces, and imagery and metaphor. In Capricorn, that's your career. Opposite the Mars and Cancer, next to the career point, the midheaven. It's just so like on point.
Yeah.
But Yeah, no, I mean, and Jupiter right on the descendant on the 6th is like luck when it comes to work and the daily grind. I don't know. I'll say that like the 8th house is maybe the most private house in this chart where we have a planet and Venus is
Mm,
there, which is like a nice um, Venus is beauty and love, and
right.
that's in the 8th house in Gemini. I feel like his relationships are probably really important to him, but like private, you know?
Oh yeah. I feel like I never hear about, I don't even know if it's his wife necessarily, but I just feel like I never hear about his personal shit.
Yeah.
But I also, as a Pisces moon, I bet he's very protective of that. Well, and just a lot of his water in general. I feel like that's a very, water can be a lot more private about the more
Yeah. Yeah.
personal.
Especially if you have Scorpio and Cancer, which he
Well,
does.
especially if you have a public chart, like you got to have some privacy. You got to keep some shit like completely yours and
Totally.
no one else's. And um I know we already brought this up too, but like it is just so funny hearing he has that Pisces moon and people have been begging for new music. And it's like, that's not how it happens. He's got to get the feelings, he's got to get the motivations for the Gemini to execute it into a fun rap song for y'all. But yeah, I just like,
You gotta,
yeah,
yeah. If you're
I'm
not hit
sure
by the wave, you don't
like
have the wave
then you
in
don't
you.
have the way.
I,
Right.
I,
That's so Grimes. That's so Pisces.
yeah, I mean, I can speak for my Pisces. Yeah, I'm sure. I say what you want about Marianne Williamson. I get it, but heard an interview with her recently where she said that she's like, yeah, I wasn't pregnant with that idea. I was pregnant with a different idea. And when you're just like pregnant with an idea. And I was like, yes, I do know that. And it's funny because she's a Cancer and that's such a like Cancer thing. I feel like to put it in terms of like mothering
Yeah.
and pregnancy and like,
That's really
but
funny.
yeah,
Pregnant
if
with
you're
an
not, you
idea.
can't force that shit. Like, I'm
You got to
sorry.
nurture
We're
it like
not
a baby.
AI.
It has to
Yeah.
grow and then you have to birth it. You
It
can't
comes
just.
from the ethers. It comes from
Mhm.
the universe. It's not, again, be humble. Who are we to think that we have the ideas? It comes from, sorry, I've been reading too much Rick Rubin, Pisces,
I
but he's
also,
all
well,
like, we're not the art. I'm just a vessel.
we're
Like,
vessels. Yeah. It's such a beautiful thing to, again, that's so funny. The book Big Magic talks about this too. Shit, I can't think of her name. Um,
Elizabeth,
yes, Gilbert.
Elizabeth Gilbert.
It is that.
That
Yeah.
is it.
Who
Yeah.
wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah.
She has a whole book called Big Magic that talks about this too, where it's like when you
Feel like
look
she's
at,
a Pisces. I feel like I looked it up. Anyway,
she's
but
got water,
yeah,
that's for sure. But she talks about like why would she had the exact same idea as like another friend of authors of
Rick
her,
Rubin
like,
talks about this.
yes, and they were like they were not even living in the same country at the time, and this other person, it was so much more, it was like an idea that she had and then passed up on, but it was this very niche, very specific, weird thing, and someone else had the exact same, like, it was just one of those things where it's like, how did we both have such a niche, specific story we wanted to tell? And she talks about how they are, that like ideas are gifts from the universe and you are the vessel, yes, to birth it.
And you can either
I
choose to
or pass it
birth
on to
it or
someone else.
not, but
Yeah.
it's
Or
time
get a
for the
surrogate.
universe to have it. That's why I'm like, fuck, I see all these artists making shit about astrology. If I'm
Right.
not doing it, no. God damn
Right.
it.
But I love like looking at it like that, but I also am like, well, you can't not ever jump on it also. And so if anything, I'm like, well, I'm glad, I'm kind of selfishly glad Drake got a little, his feathers ruffled a little bit and in Kendrick's face, because we got a lot of good stuff out of it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just it too. It was like for the general overall collective, people were just like, yes, like just rap is having a moment, which is really fun and dramatic. And people are like
And it's
Drake,
Gemini
and it's
season.
Gemini. It was in the peak of Gemini season. And I think like, Drake did his diss. Kendrick did his. The next time Drake dropped one, Kendrick dropped one 30 minutes later. Like it was, people were on, it's like Drake said just come out and Kendrick dropped one again. Like they were not playing games. It was very like, you had to be online, and like I was waking up every day like there's another one. Like they had like a volley. They really had a volley there for a minute.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah,
That's
it was
like
very right. It was drama.
housewives.
Literally, it was drama. And it was like, right. And I mean,
I
I
need to
guess it
shut
still
up.
kind of is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that's what, and like, but again, people got excited. They were like, I don't even think it was necessarily for just the beef and the tension. People were excited about like, again, two of the rappers in the top three are putting out back to back songs
No,
right
how
now.
cool
Like,
that it's like art too. Like, yeah,
right.
it's yeah.
And they're both making money off of it. So like
And
Drake's
it's
like,
just such
whatever.
a manifestation of Gemini energy right now.
Yeah,
That's so I love that.
it really is. Gemini is such a go ahead and talk your shit. Hey, maybe you go to a wedding on a boat one weekend, and you know it's open bar, and maybe you spend the night talking your shit a
Should have
little
been
bit.
there.
I think the only reason I don't have regrets is because it's Gemini season.
Yeah. Blame it on the universe. I mean,
I'm saying there are
be
healthier ways
humble.
to.
It's not you and your ego, Miranda. It's
It
you're the
can't be.
vessel for the energy. I mean, it's the cunty season.
It's the season of the con. No, yeah, it is. A Gemini is just a fun. Again, we've talked about this though, right? Going back into astrology as a whole, we blasted off into this Aries astrological new year. We dip into that grounding Taurus, and now we're in like kind of playful younger sibling Gemini a little bit, who's kind of like, okay, but also remember life's worth living. And like, yes, we're grounded, but like, there's no point in being grounded if we can't have a little fun with it too, a little
Yeah.
play with our work. Come on. Yeah, no, it's just been a beautiful, and then we're gonna dip into that watery Cancer. We're about to complete our first
Yes.
element cycle, I should say.
Or
And that always feels like
modality.
a, or is that what they're revert to?
Or no, you're right. Element cycle, but we're gonna
I'm like, I'm sure that's not the proper term.
sorry. No. You are right. It's but with Cancer, we start with another cardinal sign. So it's like
Gotcha.
through the cycle of the modalities,
Right.
like the cardinal fixed,
Gotcha.
mutable. But you are absolutely correct. Yes.
I'm
all
like,
the
I don't know if that's
elements.
the proper term, but that's more what I like that almost in itself, like going through the pattern, the first pattern of the elements always feels very profound as well. It always feels
Totally,
like a like a
totally.
mark.
Once we hit Cancer, I feel like yeah, my personal new year has like begun or like shaped or like I have
Right.
an idea of like what this year's about
No, I
since
get
I've
it.
been following astrology more closely. Yeah.
And just Gemini in general, this has been a lively time. Much needed, much respected, much appreciated.
I had so much respect. I can't wait to listen to Charlie. Um
We really needed this. We really needed this. And I'm just excited to like the new moon. It's a fresh start. We've got another element on the way, of course, but um that looking back on the 2020 thing, really, I think hit with me as I think it's very interesting. Again, it's that's been like 4 years ago. This is an election year for us. Like there's so many layers and ways to I think we're now in the age of Aquarius, though. That's a huge difference. Like 2020 was sort of like age of Aquarius is on the horizon, and now it's more like it's here. Like we're kind of more in it. I'm really interested to see what we have for the rest of the astrological year. And I mean that there is, change doesn't happen without its ebbs and flows, but specifically I'm interested to see sort of what we keep and what we let go of, if that makes sense.
yes.
On a bigger scale.
Yes.
Because I think there's a lot we learned from 2020, but that I still think we're not necessarily actively practicing like we maybe were in 2020. There's a lot we learned, and there's a lot we, I think, not miss about 2020, but we can't deny that there was an awakening on so many different types of levels. 2020 was just weirdly people had time to wake up. Like we put the pause on quote unquote reality. And there's just since then, it just feels like it's been an unraveling of awakening, like more and more and more of it. just also like the timing of that with sort of where we are as a society right now and how a lot of it's bleak or a lot of it's just like, yeah, we have some notes. We have some notes. And it's just a fucking time. I don't know. I'm very, very, not to get ahead of ourselves, and we got to be in the present. Every day is an important one, but I am very intrigued by this upcoming year and where it's going. And I know that sounds like, bitch, the new year was in January, but not our new year.
No, no, no. I know.
Not
It's
our,
hard
we're
to
only in month
say.
3 if you think about it.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, go ahead, Heather.
As a spiritual bitch, I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm.
the present moment. And then the astrologer in me is like, but the future, like what's gonna happen?
We have to find that Libra balance
We do. Libra
of
balance,
connecting them both, of course.
Gemini duality.
Oh, Gemini duality. Yes, one last thing I do want to say too, Heather. I feel like I've brought this up before, but I can't remember if I brought it up on a Gemini episode this round. But I do think while we're in it, while we're here with Gemini, little shouts out to Gemini. If you're just getting into astrology, the joke is always that like Gemini is the worst sign. Gemini is two-faced, which is such a surface level explanation just because they're the twin, right? The twin symbol. But again, what is Gemini if not being a chameleon and sort of belonging everywhere all at once? And we all have permission to do that during this season. We get to take up space wherever, like as if we've been taking up space there our whole lives. We get to learn, we get to be curious, and we get to like really abide by that curiosity, I think, which is always a fun time. I've always am looking for an excuse for this, but it's fun that you guys are all here too. Just kidding. But yes, there's a lot that comes with Gemini besides obviously great rappers. Don't get me started. And great conversation, of course. But as we're moving into Cancer as well, like that coming up on our next sign, I think we're going to deal with a lot of those themes as well. Like, or a lot of just like the deeper themes. Yeah, I love this time. And it's again, every season, every element is for all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I
Yeah,
think we need to really stop looking at them as like, or saying Gemini is so two-faced, because I don't think that's what it is. It's the adaptability and
it's
the way you carry
adaptable and
yourself as if like
curious
I've been doing
and
this my whole life. Like that's the beauty.
yeah.
Yeah. What a time. Ah, Kendrick. Heather, did you have anything more to add? I'm sorry. Wasn't trying to move on from Kendrick.
No, not about Kendrick, but
Yeah.
I
I'm a
am
little
excited
shall
to
we talk
talk
about
about
these transitions?
yes,
These upcoming
these
movements. Let's.
transits. Yes. With the Gemini new moon today, this morning, we recorded this on Thursday, June 6th. And then yeah, it's a really like positive, fun, bountiful new moon. But and we still have Sun and Venus next to each other, which doesn't happen very often. And it's near, well, yeah, the whenever there's a new moon, it's the sun and the moon coming together. So that's what makes it like super auspicious, they say, is that
Mm.
Venus is involved. And Venus, of course, is beauty, love, attracting things, positivity. But then 2 days later, on the 8th, Venus forms a square to Saturn in Pisces. And then on the 9th, the Gemini sun forms a square to Saturn in Pisces. And it's interesting, like for the second half of the month, this is sort of like a theme that's developing as we get
Mm.
more into June, is these Pisces and Cancer things coming into conversation, and specifically like Saturn being in Pisces, um and Saturn's about to retrograde through Pisces at the end of the month. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's Saturn's been direct since I think like December, January, and now it's finally about to retrograde.
Mm.
And yeah, a squares are not fun, and square to Venus and square to the sun isn't necessarily fun, but it's like reality check, but it could also be a good opportunity to kind of like stabilize or bring into reality some Pisces dreams or some Gemini ideas or
Mm.
things like that. But it's sort of like we have this like bountiful, like I'm attracting things, I feel positive Gemini
Right.
new moon, and then it's sort of there's like a all right, but reality too.
Right.
But it's Pisces, which is so Saturn and Pisces is like such an oxymoron to me because it's like
That is so funny,
and
right? Because
like
like,
all the
what are they doing
astrologers
there
talk
together?
about it. Like as
Yeah.
Saturn's been in Pisces, they're all like, "How do you fucking give form?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how about for someone who like grew up with this in their birth chart? Like
Right.
literally, like how do we give form to Pisces,
Yeah.
to the ocean?"
Yeah. There's
Still figuring
really,
it out. We won't
you
know for
can't
another.
contain. Listen, if we've learned anything, let me go to one
I
of
think
my
it's
water
art. I think
analogies.
it's Elizabeth Gilbert.
Literally, because again, I think that's the big difference. Like, not saying that all these other elements you can like capture or control by any means, right? Like fire, but like, I do think there's something interesting when we think about, again, yeah, the ocean symbolically. It's not something we've ever tried to conquer. It's like 70% of our body or whatever the fuck. It's like 75% of Earth also or whatever the fuck, which I find really interesting. Or like, I could totally be wrong on that. But I want to say that like the percentage of how much water is on Earth is very close to how much we need in our bodies too, which is, I don't know.
Would make sense
We'll have to
because we're
fact check
one
me.
with it all.
But like in terms of controlling the ocean or limiting it or trying to cage it or yes give it form, we've never done that. What we've done though is sailed across it, swam through it. I think you have to join. There is no
Yeah.
control in that scenario to water. All you can really do is ride it, right? You can surf it, you can play in it, you can do all these things, but control it, you're what a waste of time. It's just never gonna, it's interesting to
Yeah.
think about it in that way.
Well, even like Scorpio, they say is like ice, like freezing the water. Like, and in that
Mm.
sense, it almost has a container. But Pisces, no, 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 no,
Ah,
no. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't think there's any transmuting of like the two fish swimming in opposite direction in the ocean.
Mhm.
Like,
Literally, where are they going? They're not, they're literally going in different ways.
yeah.
Pisces is
So,
also like, I'm just as confused as you guys.
yeah.
I don't know what was coming out of my
Oh,
mouth
the
either back
confusion.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, but that's like that's where exactly. Can you imagine how boring life would be if we just always had control over it?
Oh my
It'd feel a
God, I
lot like
know.
safer, but I think half of the beauty
Also,
is
what is
in there's no
control?
form.
That's an
Right.
illusion.
Right. I think there a lot more life doesn't have form than we assign it,
Be
so to
humble.
speak. Yeah. Be humble, bitch. Sit down. I'm gonna have to watch that music video. Sorry, Heather. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. I'm like, because I'll tangent us right away. I'll take my two fishes in opposite directions. You won't know where I'm going. But no, all in all, it's just been such a glorious Gemini season. Listeners, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for indulging in our Gemini-ness, like this podcast. It's just so, it is such a freeing, we have this like fun light air, and now we're about to go into a little bit more of like freeing water. And I know Cancer has the shell, but those insides are where it's nice and free form. And not to say that, or just, yeah, I'm very excited. We're about to come up on our first element cycle.
Yes.
This Gemini season has been a strong one. This whole loaded ass 2024 has been a strong one, but we were made for this. We've
We
been putting on our
were.
muscles. Okay. We've been working out. We are prepared, listeners. Do
We
not
are.
fret. Um, oh, I just love it. Happy new moon to you all.
Happy new moon.
I love you so much, Heather.
Love you.
Infinite abundance to all of you. We will see you right back here next week. Will we be in Cancer next week?
No, not yet.
We'll see you right back here in Gemini next week. Love you.
Love
Infinite
you.
abundance.
Bye.
Bye.